Books are the world's biggest repositories of knowledge, and I am one damn voracious reader. I have been reading books since I was maybe three, four. Of course, earlier than that from nursery school. But what is more remarkable is how I can remember vividly that from when I was seven was when on the balcony of my primary two classroom I was reading the Bible, and I also remember that at 9 years old was when I finished Derek's Every Woman. Even though my mom didn't want me to read it at the time because, of course, it's a women's book. So what is a girl doing with a woman's book? I was that excited and curious about knowledge. Several years after, decades down the line, today I have been a professional editor for 13 years. And of course, I practice editing books, editorials, corporate communication, transcription, all of those spectrum of communication career in the last 20 years. Now, here is my story. My name is Chisom Utibe-Akah, popularly known as Jenny Chisom, and I'm super excited to be telling you all about what worked for me, what didn't work, and how far I have come in a bid to contribute to your learning and my learning. Are you ready for my masterclass? Okay, so hi, my name is Chisom Utibe-Akah, and I'm the editor-in-chief at Logos Audibles Enterprises. Yes, I have been in the business of editing, proofreading, and all the chain of editorial author services since 2009 and then 2010 officially, because 2009 was when I started my business, while 2010 was when I registered it, formally or legally, okay? The genres that I edit are nonfiction, especially biographies, self-help books, Christian books. This is me telling the story of my career path in the last 13 years as an editor, proofreader, transcriber, author service provider, publisher. Okay, so sometime in 2009, I had begun what I have always done, but this time around, I was asking for a fee. Now, I didn't just always start asking for a fee. Actually, first of all, I've always been a voracious reader, like I have told you, and it was not long before I began to notice there were dangerous errors in most of the books I started reading, especially those ones written by African authors, and it gave me such sleepless nights. Now I felt personally responsible for the failure, as it were, of those publishers and authors, okay? And I started wishing that I could, help in any way, or I could help them before they actually went to press. But now that burden, was what birthed what became Logos Audibles Enterprises. Because at the time also, I was also thinking of the academic sector in Nigeria at the time. And I was thinking, what if we made textbooks into audio format where students will plug and play and, it's easy for them to understand concepts and read, so many times and be able to pass exams better. Now, that was what informed the name of my company, Logos Audibles Enterprises. And the first time I began to edit, I was editing everything. I was using word of mouth marketing, which was very effective. Yeah. And by 2009, the same year I started, I landed my first 60,000 word manuscript, and it was a play, a drama. Okay. And as much as it was drama, I was excited, but then I didn't understand the rudiments of how to price, turnaround time, all of those, concepts. But I was excited because prior to that time, 10 years prior to that time, I've always been editing. I was a go-to girl among my friends, colleagues, and family members when it has to do with writing rights, okay? But then I did it for joy and didn't know how to make money out of it. It took that year for me to redefine what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to be in the media, and I had already gotten a job 2 years before in a media company where I was editing the magazines and other materials, and I felt this talent I have, which is what I used to call it, and I have made it into a skill over the years. Why can't I charge money doing it? And by 2009, I went ahead to brand myself, the keen-eyed editor, and I went all out marketing it, and I got my first 60,000 word document, clients. And she wanted to pay me. She was a PhD holder at the time. She asked me how much she should have paid me, and I was lost for words. I have never been able to price myself or my services or skills as at that time. Okay, now that brought me on a long journey of how to assert myself, how to understand industry standards, and all the rest. Now, today you ask, what genres do I edit? I edit non-fiction and academic. Of course, academic is also under non-fiction, but under non-fiction, the kind of books I edit are biographies, self-help books, do-it-yourself books, tutorial manuals, conference speeches, academic thesis and projects, and in that spectrum. Of course, I'm open to more, subgenres under non-fiction and much more. Okay, I've also written books in line of non-fiction. Right now, I also have written a book on fiction that I'm yet to publish, but then generally, I have always been committed to making sure that African writers in particular can say exactly what they mean and mean exactly what they say by helping to refine their work and make it a masterpiece. Yeah, just by reading it. And the idea is to help empower authors and publishers and preserve our stories and be able to pass them on to posterity. And we're able to preserve language as well. English language has transmuted into a lot of countries. So English language has embodiments of different countries where it is spoken. Okay, so the Nigerian English also has to be preserved and somebody has to write them. Okay, so the job of an editor is to first of all understand the mind of the author, and of course you help the author to make it exactly what he intended for it to be without losing the message and the context and style. Now, all my life I have struggled with the pricing, like I said. Now, I charged my first 60,000 word book at 21,000 naira. That's crazy. I didn't have any parameters. I didn't have any, guidelines for charging. That was actually what the writer gifted me after asking me how much I charge, and I couldn't come up with a fee. Yeah, if you're like me, if I've had this experience, then you will understand. So it took that experience that I was totally grateful about all the same to make me begin to refine my processes and came up with a signature way to get, first of all, clients in asking and making inquiries for their books to be edited up to the point where I actually deliver their work. I had to create a series of processes, and that has helped me over these whole years. Now, first of all, I had a phenomenal experience that made me turn around my pricing policy entirely. And it was from another client in 2013 who I had gone ahead to edit his books, helped him to find publishers, printers, and all that, all that good stuff, and got him to write his book. But he called me one day, thanked me, and said, "You charged me too low for the time frame I have been working with you." It took a client to get me to rethink. And before then, did I know? Yes, I had been questioning myself that how best can I charge better? How can I, factor in my time? How can I factor in, the fact that this takes a lot of work? How do I factor in, the machineries I use and all of that? And that's also why I created it. Today, I have a pricing policy that have helped me, over the years without having to think about it much. With even how to scale it over the years have become easier because we understand exactly what to scale and what to impute into making pricing appropriate. Okay. And that's what we do at Logos Audibles. And I'm really excited to take your questions if you have any questions. So I have also become the go-to person in editing, especially for organizations. Over the pandemic in 2020, I was in the pandemic on lockdown, but I had a lot of work doing. And it involved, an institutional script I have to work on, the tutorial. And that also gave me a head start about how exactly organizations need a lot of editors to work. And that has always fueled my passion to want to help other editors for us to do this. Because as much as human beings exist, writing will never go extinct. And that means editing works can always become a major sustainable business. Okay, so when it comes to pricing right now, because I'm asked to talk about what I charge right now, I charge 2,000 naira per 300 words. I charge per page, and my page is 300 words. Okay, and I charge 2,000 naira per page. But now, there are 3 levels or scales of pricing. That is for developmental editing. Okay, so that is my high net pay structure. excluding cross-selling and upselling other aspects of the writing. So if it has to do with the 3 levels, developmental, copy editing, and proofreading, which is of course necessary for every level of work, that is what I charge. Okay. Now, if I advise other editors, I would say find your groove, start editing right now, get your skill, get testimonials, be sure of the fact that you're a big deal, and go out there, choose a market segment and serve them. Okay, that will be my advice, and I'll be waiting to answer your questions, and I'm super excited that you're watching. Okay, over the years, I have been privileged to help over 13 first-time authors to publish their work. I've been able to work with over 500 writers and authors editing their work as a company. I've also been part of big projects and repertoire functions where we have to do documentations for conferences and policy making and all of that spectrum. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.